Hey guys, Buff from GameBed today, bringing out a video, and today we're going to be talking about Modern Warfare 2's new and overhauled movement system that we'll be seeing this October when the game releases on October 28th of this year. So quite a few changes here listed over on the article down below at whatifgaming.com. I'll link the article down below. This is by our buddy Ralph's Valve, who, if we don't know him from all the Twitter information he's been giving out, lately, he's an insider and a leaker and has a lot of great information over on his Twitter page. I'll link that down below as well as the article that we'll be taking this information from. But this article was released yesterday on June 15th by Ralph over on What If Gaming. And we're going to go over the new movement system here. Obviously, with Modern Warfare 2019, there was a lot of changes to the movement system and kind of the parkour system that we saw introduced mainly and utilized in Warzone is where you can take advantage of it. And here's a lot of the same thing here is that the multiplayer maps, Ralph states, for Modern Warfare 2 are still going to be those smaller 6v6 style maps. So really you'll be able to put a lot of these to the test, some of these more so than others in Warzone, where it's a larger, more open world type environment. But basically saying that the developers at Infinity Ward are going to refine the parkour system, drawing inspiration from Mirror's Edge, which is pretty interesting if anyone played that game from EA Dice. Back in the day, I believe it was around the golden era of gaming that I like to refer to it as, the 2010s through 2012 timeline there. Mirror's Edge was a pretty good game, and the movement system there was very parkoury. I don't think we're going to see it quite to that extent, but we'll go over a lot of these changes here. If you're enjoying the content, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And jumping right into it here, first off, ladders and ropes. So with ladders, you'll be able to vertically position these, and this will be an equipment item that you're going to be carrying. You'll be able to vertically position them alongside walls, containers, and buildings, though if it's not supported, so if you're putting it in a spot where maybe it won't be able to be placed, that doesn't sound like there's, for now, I'm curious if they're going to have kind of the outline of that you can put it there, or you just got to put it there and see. But if it is not supported to put a ladder there, it will just kind of fall and shatter and then reset you with your ladder in your inventory. So I'm curious how this is going to work, if it's just going to be like one of those collapsible ladders that you carry around. I'm also curious how tall the ladder can be. Are we talking about a 12-foot ladder here? Or are we talking 30, 40 feet? One of the big ladders to get up, depending on what size the buildings are. So ladders are going to be definitely interesting. It also sounds like for ropes, you'll be able to rappel down and scale up buildings with this tool. So it sounds like something like a grapple hook rope. Whilst rappelling, players will also be able to swing through windows or into collapsed walls. You can also attach the rope onto vehicles and players, allowing for quick getaways from down players or for down players. So that's pretty interesting here. I like the rope concept here. If you were to scale down the side of a building and swing into a window, it just reminds me of that mission from COD Ghosts, and it sounds like we're going to be getting a similar mission here in Modern Warfare 2. But being able to come down and rappel down a building also has major Rainbow Six Siege vibes. Also is something I would really love to do in Rainbow Six Siege. Is you use that grapple hook, you scale the wall, plant some charges, and then bust through the window. Guns blazing is always a lot of fun. So that should be a lot of good dynamic gameplay, not just for multiplayer modes like the more high stakes mode like Search and Destroy and the hostage rescue mode that we hear is coming, but also for Warzone, depending on what the map looks like, what kind of buildings we have. Being able to swing through windows could be pretty interesting and, like I said, add for a lot of interesting dynamic gameplay. Next up, we have shifting and strafing. So this is actually a really cool feature that I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. Strafing lets you move sideways in any direction, which we all know. We've done this in Modern Warfare and Warzone, as well as backwards. If you get into a close threat, you can turn a corner when you're at a disadvantage and shift out of the area to clear some space for a better view and options of your surroundings. So essentially, it sounds like it's going to be a pivot maneuver, where instead of just the standard strafe side to side, it sounds like you can do almost like a quick pivot, which again reminds me a lot of some of the movement or the mechanics in Tarkov, Escape from Tarkov. So it sounds like that'll be an interesting feature where we'll get to shift out and pivot out in order to get away from threats quickly, or to shift position. You could be in an engagement with somebody at your 12 o'clock and then quickly need to pivot to your 6 o'clock. So instead of turning, maybe there will be a quick input to pivot X degrees. So I'll have to see how that works out. But again, that sounds actually really interesting, and I think it would be very helpful in some gunfight situations for sure. Next up is wall climbing. Players will be able to vertically climb walls this feature is determined by the height and the platform you are trying to reach and mount. So vertically climb walls, I'm not sure how this is going to work as far as how you're going to climb it. Are you going to have almost like the attachable wall climbers that are almost like those giant suction cup things, or is it going to be based on the terrain of the wall? You may be able to scale it, like if it's extended brick type siding to a wall, will you be able to climb it that way, or how's that going to work? So I'm curious to see how the wall climb feature is going to work. And again, it sounds like that'll be determined, they're saying here, by the height of the wall or the platform. So you're not going to be able to wall climb up probably 30-50 feet to the top of a building, but for the smaller type rooftops and ledges, it sounds like you'll be able to do some sort of either parkour or climb up there as well. Next up is ledge hanging. So you'll be able to hang off and grab onto ledges. Call of Duty's newest feature that allows players to reach really high platforms also reduces fall damage. Players will also be able to use their sidearm when hanging on a ledge. So this is an interesting feature. We heard some of the creators who got the first look at the game last week talk about this. You will be able to hang off of a ledge, and potentially they were playing around with the mechanic where you could use your pistol. So, for example, Search and Destroy, you could be planting a bomb, and I could be hanging off the ledge outside the building, and while you're planting, I can pull myself up and use my pistol to shoot you while you're planting the bomb. Something like that. Ledge hanging, I'm assuming you'll be able to strafe side to side, like climb side to side horizontally there as well. So again, that pretty interesting. I think that can make for a lot of pretty fun moments and also quick getaways as well. Next up, sliding. So this is one, the sliding and the fast twitchy movement is something that I've kind of always had a problem with. I think it's a little bit too easy to abuse. It sounds like they're going to do something to counter that here, but it's not, from what I've heard, but it's not explicitly goes into too much detail here. But we do know about sliding here, according to Ralph, is that it has been revised, allowing players to now slide into prone positions as well as down angle inclines and slopes. So in Modern Warfare and Warzone, you can't really slide down angled hills and things like that, which was a problem depending on the angle of that hill or slopes. And also, you couldn't slide into prone position. But from what I'm hearing here, you will be able to slide into a prone position. However, there will be an animation cut, so you can't shoot and instantly go prone. There's gonna be a movement animation in with that, or at least a delay to where you can't use your weapon until you move from the kneel position to the prone position. So won't have really the same thing as the bunny hopping that we had back in the day, or not the bunny hopping, the dolphin diving. There will be a cut in the ability to shoot your firearm, so it can't be abused too much, which is good to hear, because I think the dolphin diving and sliding into prone quickly has always been a problem. But if you can't use your weapon during that time, I think it makes it a little bit more balanced, in my opinion. Next up is bunny hopping. So bunny hopping is going to be dependent on the height a player falls from. The greater the height, the more speed boost you get to go into a bunny hop. So depending on what kind of ledge you're jumping off of into a slide, in that bunny hop will be determined. So the higher the height, the more speed you'll get on the slide, the more you'll be able to higher and further you'll be able to jump off that. Hopefully that's not something crazy where people are bouncing around like little bunnies, but we'll have to wait and see. Never been a fan of bunny hopping. I'm personally a fan of the more refined, grounded in reality type movement system, so hopefully it doesn't go too crazy, kind of like we saw the latter half of Warzone being abused with the slide and the movement mechanics. So we'll have to wait and see what that looks like. Next up is the quick draw sidearm for hipfire. So this feature allows a player to quickly draw a sidearm with one hand. This can also be done with lethals. So not really sure how this is going to look animation-wise. It sounds like I could be firing my primary, and if I'm out, instead of reloading, I could quickly draw my sidearm and shoot from the hip, essentially. So I'm curious how that'll work. Again, could be really, really useful in some situations. Instead of taking the time to switch your weapon, you could easily just quickly draw that sidearm, and most likely I'm assuming that'll be an attachment, like a quick draw feature on your pistol or your sidearm that you'd have to put on the weapon itself, or maybe even the perk. Next up is the suppressor meter. So when we talked about the gunsmith last week, we did talk about the different meters for all of the attachments. You'll be able to essentially go from a high end of the spectrum to the lower end of the spectrum with most of, if not all of, your attachments that you put on your weapons. And this will allow you to tune the stats more so to your playstyle. So with suppressors, we have some insight here from Ralph as to how that will work for the suppressors. You can change the size of your suppressors, and depending on the size, it'll affect recoil. Now, that's an interesting feature here because a larger suppressor, assuming, will reduce recoil. Shorter suppressor, like we saw in Warzone and Modern Warfare, something like a lightweight suppressor, necessarily doesn't reduce recoil, but it also reduces bullet velocity and damage at range, which is also not great. So you may be able to determine that based on this meter. You'll be able to, like I said, the meter will affect the recoil, the damage, and the ranges. So there'll exist a meter that players will be able to mess with and find out their balance. So not sure if, we talked about this in the Gunsmith video, not sure if you're going to be able to go anywhere within that high to low end of the spectrum, or if they're going to have preset designations within that meter that you'll be able to select. Have to wait and see how that looks. But as far as changing the size of your suppressor and depending on this, it sounds, I'm not really sure what to make of that. I'm not sure if you're going to actually be increasing the size, or you have to select different suppressors and just tune the stats of the suppressor itself. I have to wait and see how that looks, but at least it offers you some options with your suppressors as far as maybe going for more sound suppression or better bullet velocity. Some pros and cons, some trade-offs with that, hopefully, with this meter system. I'll have to wait and see how that plays out, though. Next up is the weapon handling, so grips. This is actually pretty cool here. So an operator will have the option of choosing between a set of different tactical handlings and techniques. This can affect the accuracy and speed of the weapons. Some examples include a magwell grip or a C-clamp grip. So if you're not familiar, I'll try and include some pictures here, but regardless, just Google it or take a look online. Basically, a magwell grip, you're holding, like for an M4 or a M16 platform, you would, instead of a vertical foregrip, you'd be gripping the magwell if there's no vertical grip on the barrel or the underbarrel. So you would just be gripping the magwell in order to help control or mitigate that recoil. And then things like a C-clamp, if you have something like a, even in real life, I use it with my my Magpul grip. I still C-clamp on it, and I just rest that grip against my palm. But C-clamp, you're essentially doing exactly what it sounds like, is creating a C from the underbarrel to over the top of the barrel with your thumb. It's a good way to grip, whether you have a grip on your weapon or not, and depending on the grip, you can grip it different ways. But personally, I prefer a C-clamp grip in real life. I think it's a really good grip, so it's interesting that you'll be able to, hopefully, it sounds like, choose how your operator is going to grip it. I'm not sure if that'll be based on the grips, kind of like it was in Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone, or if you'll actually be able to say, this is my grip, but I want the grip that I have on the weapon, but this is how I want my operator to grip the weapon. So we'll have to wait and see. It sounds a little weird when you say it like that, but have the ability to pick and choose how you're going to be doing that for those handling techniques. It sounds like that may be part of the meter system as well. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Next up is the magazine check animation. So this is a huge callback. Reminds me of Escape from Tarkov. So for modes with limited heads-up display, aka think like realism that we had in Modern Warfare in 2019. So your limited display or heads-up display, the HUD, you'll be able to inspect the weapon's magazine count. So by doing that, essentially in Escape from Tarkov, you take out the magazine and you look at it, and it will tell you, based on the type of magazine, it's either, based on the weight of it, you'll be able to tell it's either approximate, it's around halfway full, more than halfway full, less than halfway full, or if it's something like a windowed PMag or something where you're able to see through and see the bullet count, you'll be able to get an approximate count of how much is left of your magazine. So that's pretty interesting. I really like that feature, and I like that ability because, again, it's more grounded in reality, and it makes the player, I would say, think a little bit more within their play style. So instead of just, especially if you're limited in ammo in some of these limited HUD modes, you don't want to be reloading all the time. So it's definitely helpful to check your ammo count. And this could be a hint at DMZ. Even though it hasn't been officially announced and we haven't heard anything about it yet for launch, this sounds like something that will definitely be seen in the DMZ mode if that is something that in fact comes with the game. Next up is the reticle ammunition count. So a new design where reticles display the ammo count for your weapon, seen on the revolvers and shotguns so far, is what Ralph's saying with some of the footage they've seen. These refined and renewed mechanics will give fans a new learning curve. Overall, this is referring to all the mechanics we just covered. New learning curve that allow players to effectively interact with, practice and master stringing together unfamiliar gameplay features. So basically, by putting all these together in some form or another, you can probably become a really good with a movement system in countering your opponents in not only multiplayer, but also Warzone, hopefully DMZ. But a lot of those are really cool. I think the ones that I like the most is I like the reticle ammunition count. This reminds me more of like a NGSW type optic. Some of these ones, I think even, I'm not sure if any of the Vortexes do, but The NGSW ones, they're supposed to, they have basically the computerized optics with the heads-up displays. Ideally, they're supposed to give you the round count on them, which is pretty interesting. I know they have some of those in Battlefield 2042 as well. I like that, as well as the magazine check. I think is a really good one, and I really like what we're hearing about the weapon handling, grips, suppressor meters, as well as the ladders and lead changing. I think is a really interesting one. A lot of people were complaining, especially back on Verdansk, about not being able to get on roofs. But if you come up here and just pop a ladder and climb up your mobile ladder if it's an equipment item, I think that'd be actually really cool. And again, it makes you choose kind of what you're going to bring into not only a multiplayer mode, but also a mode of potentially DMZ and or Warzone 2. So let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know your thoughts on the new movement mechanics here that we've heard. I'm sure this is only scratches the surface of the new movement mechanics that we'll be seeing. So let me know what you guys think of that, and if you are excited for Modern Warfare 2, what you think of the new movement system. Let me know in the comments down below. Till next time, this is Buffner Gaming, out.